Glass shatters, crowd roars. But what about the cracks beneath the surface? Stone cold. Steve Austin was a god in the ring, but his life outside it? That's a whole different story. Prepare to be stunned. Steve Austin is one of the most legendary figures in professional wrestling history. Born in 1964, he started his career in the late 1980s and then finally became a star in the 90s. With his stone-cold stunner finisher, wild brawling style, and no-nonsense attitude, Austin won multiple WWE championships and headlined some of the biggest events, including WrestleMania. He helped push WWE to new heights, making wrestling must-watch television in the late 90s. Austin wasn't just a wrestler, he was the face of WWE's Attitude Era, a time when the company pushed the limits of entertainment. His intense rivalry with WWE owner Vince McMahon became the stuff of legend, turning him into the ultimate anti-hero. Fans couldn't get enough of his beer-smashing, trash-talking, take-no-prisoners persona, making him one of the biggest draws in wrestling history. But Austin's journey wasn't without controversy. Legal troubles, career-threatening injuries, and backstage conflicts added layers of complexity to his story. Here is all that you need to know. In the summer of 2002, the world of professional wrestling was shaken by an event that had nothing to do with the ring. Steve Austin was arrested for domestic violence against his then-wife, Deborah Marshall. Fans who had cheered for the rebellious anti-hero, known as Stone Cold, were forced to face a reality far different from the character they adored. That June night in San Antonio, Texas, a call was made to 911. When officers arrived at the home Austin shared with Deborah, they found her with visible injuries. The details of what happened that night weren't widely reported, but it was clear that something serious had taken place. Deborah later required medical attention, a sign that this was more than just an argument gone too far. As the police took Austin into custody, the news spread quickly. The world saw a different side of the man who had smashed beer cans over his head, fought against authority, and entertained millions with his rebellious persona. This wasn't a scripted rivalry, it was a real, serious accusation that threatened to change everything. The legal process that followed was swift but intense. With the media watching closely, Austin faced the possibility of a long and damaging trial. To avoid the worst consequences, he entered a no-contest plea to a misdemeanor assault charge. This meant he wasn't admitting guilt, but he was accepting the punishment. It was a move that some saw as an attempt to put the incident behind him as quickly as possible. The punishment included probation, requiring him to stay out of trouble and follow strict legal guidelines. He was ordered to pay a fine, though the exact amount wasn't always clear. He also had to complete community service, dedicating hours to unpaid work to give back to the public. On paper, the legal consequences seemed relatively minor, but the real punishment wasn't in the courtroom. It was in the court of public opinion. For years, Austin had been seen as one of wrestling's biggest stars, a hero to many. But after this, everything changed. Fans struggled with what they had heard. Some refused to believe it, choosing to separate the man from the allegations. Others were devastated, unable to see their hero in the same light. Domestic violence is a serious crime, and it was hard to ignore the reality of what had happened. The impact wasn't just on Austin's public image. His marriage to Deborah Marshall fell apart, a tragic and painful end to a relationship that had once seemed full of promise. For Deborah, the wounds were more than just physical. The emotional scars left behind were just as deep, and she later spoke about the pain of the incident and the toll it took on her. Even beyond his personal life, Austin's career took a hit. While he still had supporters, there was an undeniable shift. The wrestling industry thrives on fan support, and when public perception changes, it can affect everything. Endorsements, opportunities, and even the way the audience reacts can shift overnight. While Austin remained a legend in wrestling, this incident left a stain that couldn't be ignored. This wasn't the only controversy Austin faced that year. Just months later, he made another shocking move, this time within the world of wrestling. In June 2002, Austin walked out of WWE, leaving the company just before a planned Monday Night Raw appearance. His frustration stemmed from a creative decision that would have had him lose to a young Brock Lesnar with no build-up. To Austin, it felt like a waste. He believed a match like that should have been built up as a major event, not thrown onto television without any real hype. Rather than go through with it, he packed his bags and left. The walkout left WWE stunned. Vince McMahon and the company publicly addressed the situation, making it clear they were disappointed. Some saw Austin's decision as unprofessional, while others understood his frustration. Either way, it was another major controversy in a year that was already difficult for him. Though he eventually returned to WWE, things were never quite the same. The trust between Austin and the company had been damaged, and the relationship remained complicated. Behind the scenes, Austin had a reputation for being passionate and fiercely protective of his character. Some praised him for his dedication, while others found him difficult to work with. He wasn't afraid to speak his mind, and that sometimes led to tension backstage. His on-screen persona was all about rebellion and toughness, and some believed that attitude carried over into real life. Another element of Austin's career that later sparked debate was his role in WWE's Attitude Era. During this time, WWE pushed the boundaries of entertainment, often featuring edgy, controversial content. Austin's character was a big part of this era, with wild antics, crude humor, and moments that might not be considered acceptable by today's standards. At the time, it was all part of the show. Fans loved the chaos and unpredictability of Stone Cold. But as times changed, some of the things that were once cheered have been looked at with a more critical eye. Society has evolved, and conversations about what is appropriate in entertainment have shifted. While some argue that Austin's promos and actions should be viewed in the context of their time, others believe that certain lines should never have been crossed, no matter the era. Despite everything, Steve Austin remains one of the most iconic figures in wrestling history. His contributions to the industry are undeniable, and his influence is still felt today. But his legacy is complicated. For some, he will always be the beer-drinking, middle-finger-waving, no-nonsense fighter who took on the establishment and won. For others, the 2002 domestic violence incident and other controversies make it impossible to see him the same way. In the end, Steve Austin's story is one of both triumph and struggle. He reached the highest levels of success but faced personal demons that threatened to overshadow his achievements. It's a reminder that no one is immune to mistakes, and fame doesn't make anyone untouchable. Wrestling fans will always debate how to remember him, but one thing is certain: his story is one that won't be forgotten. For the ones who like him regardless, here is a quick rundown of his epic career. This is the story of how Steve Austin went from a small-town Texas kid to one of the biggest icons in sports entertainment history. Stephen James Anderson was born on December 18, 1964, in Austin, Texas. His early life was pretty normal, but let's be real, there was nothing normal about the man he would become. After his parents divorced, his mom remarried, and Stephen took his stepfather's last name, becoming Stephen Williams. But that name wasn't going to stick. He was meant for something bigger. Before becoming a wrestling legend, Austin was all about football. Tough, hard-working, and full of Texas grit, he was the kind of player coaches loved. He played in high school, earned a scholarship, and ended up at the University of North Texas. But deep down, he wasn't dreaming about touchdowns. He was dreaming about headlocks and drop kicks. By the late 80s, Austin left football behind to chase his real passion, wrestling. But making it in the wrestling world wasn't easy. He started at the bottom, wrestling in tiny promotions for little money, barely getting by. At first, he wrestled under his real name, but there was already another Steve Williams in the business. So he became Steve Austin, and things slowly started to change. In 1991, World Championship Wrestling signed him and gave him the name Stunning Steve Austin. With long blonde hair and a cocky attitude, he picked up a few championship wins. But WCW didn't see him as a top guy. They didn't get it. In 1995, they made a huge mistake. They fired him, thinking he wasn't good enough to be a star. Getting fired could have been the end, but Austin wasn't the type to give up. He took that setback and turned it into motivation. He landed in Extreme Championship Wrestling, where he started showing off the raw, no-nonsense attitude that would make him famous. He honed his skills on the microphone, venting his frustrations and crafting the rebellious personality that fans would soon love. In 1996, the World Wrestling Federation gave him a shot. At first, they stuck him with a boring gimmick called the Ringmaster, but Austin knew he was capable of more. Then inspiration hit in the most unexpected way. One day, his wife handed him a cup of tea and told him to drink it before it got stone cold. That was it. The name, the attitude, the persona that would change everything. Stone Cold. Steve Austin was born. That same year, Austin entered the King of the Ring tournament. After winning, he delivered a promo that shook the wrestling world. Austin 316 says, "I just whipped your ass." That one line made him a superstar. Fans loved his rebellious, take-no-prisoners attitude. He wasn't a hero or a villain. He was just stone cold, and that was exactly what the audience craved. By the late 90s, Austin was the biggest name in wrestling. His feuds, especially with WWE owner Vince McMahon, logically became legendary. He was the ultimate anti-hero, a beer-drinking, middle-finger-raising brawler who didn't care about authority. Every time his entrance music hit, the crowd went wild. He won multiple championships, main evented the biggest shows, and became the face of WWE's most successful era, the Attitude Era. But Austin's aggressive style took a toll on his body. In 1997, during a match at SummerSlam against Owen Hart, a botched pile driver left him temporarily paralyzed. Though he recovered, the injury did permanent damage to his neck. Over the years, knee injuries piled up too. As a result, he had to change his wrestling style, relying more on brawling. Punches, stomps, and brute force became his go-to moves. Even with the injuries, Austin kept going, delivering unforgettable matches and moments. He changed the game, proving that fans didn't always want a clean-cut hero. They wanted someone real, someone who spoke their mind and stood up to authority. Stone Cold Steve Austin's impact goes way beyond championships. He changed wrestling forever, bringing in millions of fans and creating moments that are still talked about today. His legacy lives on every time a wrestler delivers a rebellious promo, cracks open a beer in the ring, or refuses to back down from authority. By 2003, Steve Austin's body had taken too much damage from years of intense wrestling. Doctors warned him that if he continued, he could suffer permanent injuries. Knowing the risks, Austin decided to step into the ring one last time at WrestleMania 19 against his longtime rival, The Rock. The two had fought many battles before, but this one was different. Austin knew it was his final match. The Rock won, and with that, Austin's legendary in-ring career came to an end. He officially retired later that year at the age of 38. Even after leaving the ring, Austin never truly left WWE. He took on different roles, keeping his presence alive. He was made co-general manager of Raw and later became the sheriff of Raw, where he enforced his own brand of justice. Fans still got to see his rebellious attitude, even if he wasn't competing. In 2009, WWE recognized his contributions by inducting him into the Hall of Fame. Vince McMahon himself called Austin the greatest WWE superstar of all time. But Austin wasn't done entertaining. He found new ways to connect with fans. He launched a popular podcast, The Steve Austin Show, where he interviewed wrestlers and celebrities. His storytelling and humor made it a fan favorite. Later, he created Broken Skull Sessions, where he had deep, honest conversations with wrestling legends, offering fans a rare glimpse into their lives and careers. Austin also became a TV personality. He hosted shows like Redneck Island and Steve Austin's Broken Skull Challenge, where contestants pushed their limits in extreme physical challenges. His no-nonsense attitude made him the perfect host. He even had a show called Straight Up Steve Austin, where he traveled, had fun, and talked with celebrities in a laid-back style. On top of all this, Austin also acted in movies, appearing in films like The Longest Yard, The Condemned, and The Expendables. One of his most successful ventures was launching his own beer brand. Fans had watched him chug beers in the ring for years, so when he introduced Broken Skull IPA and later Broken Skull American Lager, it was an instant hit. Wrestling fans and beer lovers alike enjoyed it, making it a major success. Then in 2022, Austin shocked the world by returning for one final match at WrestleMania 38. At 57 years old, he stepped back into the ring to face Kevin Owens in a no-holds-barred match. Despite being out of action for nearly 2 decades, Austin fought like he never left, and he won. It was the perfect way to close his career on his own terms, proving once again why he was one of the greatest of all time. Austin's impact on wrestling is undeniable. He wasn't a typical hero. He was a rebel who stood up to authority, especially WWE's boss, Vince McMahon. His rise in the late 90s changed the business forever, making WWE the biggest wrestling company in the world. Fans connected with him because he wasn't just playing a character, he was being himself. Today, Austin enjoys a quieter life, but still stays connected to his fans. He continues hosting Broken Skull Sessions, where he interviews wrestling legends, sharing insights and stories. He also focuses on fitness and often shares his workout routines. While he doesn't wrestle anymore, he still makes special WWE appearances, keeping the Stone Cold legacy alive. That's the story of Stone Cold Steve Austin, a true legend who did things his way and never backed down. What's your favorite Austin moment? Let us know in the comments. If you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more wrestling stories. Until next time, stay legendary.